Hi, everybody. My name is Sara Elise. I am an astrologer, an evolutionary astrologer in Toronto, Canada. And this is my newsletter going out on December 2nd, 2021 to my community in preface for the new moon eclipse that we'll be having in around 24 hours from now, coming tomorrow approximately. I mean, it's a little complicated. It's happening around midnight, the crossover between Friday and Saturday. So on the Pacific coast, it will happen around midnight. On the Eastern coast where I live, it's around 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. But in any case, it's an eclipse. It's a solar eclipse that's happening this time. We had a lunar eclipse occur about 2 weeks ago in Taurus. And that eclipse was a lunar eclipse, which prefaced the start of a new nodal axis cycle. The nodes of the moon are changing around December 21st, I believe. Let me check my ephemeris. The nodes shift on literally the 24th. So it's Christmas Eve. The Christmas Eve, they turn to 29 degrees of Taurus on the 24th of December. And what happens when the nodes of the moon shift is we go through a really significant change in the collective. So the dream we're all dreaming here, the dream, the evolutionary impulse that we're all having together as one big happy human family is in some ways, at least very instinctually, tied to the nodes of the moon. There is so much more to it than that, but at an instinctual primal human level, we tend to be very aware of the lunar influences in our lives. It is the Maya that we're dreaming. It is the illusion that we are creating. It's the storyline that we're telling, right? In our human drama, the moon is the soap opera. It really is the stuff we get really excited about and that we feel. It feels very personal. We get wrapped up in it. And we play out the drama of the moon's nodes every 18 months. And they change every 18 months like clockwork. We cycle through every archetypal pairing because the nodes of the moon are always opposite each other. There's always a south node and a north node, tying together two archetypal extremes, inviting the collective into a specific dream wherein which it can evolve and grow and discover itself anew within that time period. So we're coming to the end of a nodal cycle that began in 2020. I believe the first eclipse was in June, on June the 5th of 2020, and the nodes of the moon changed right around then. I believe it was June the 5th. So on June the 5th, we had an eclipse, and it was at 0 degrees of Gemini. So the eclipse came in right as the nodes shifted, right in the beginning of the Gemini season. So what happened then all the way to now would define the quote unquote zeitgeist, or the evolutionary turn of what we've sort of been sorting through as on the collective level. And with the south node in Sag and the north node in Gemini, we have been sorting through kind of trauma drama that associates with the Sagittarius archetype. And we have been resolving it through elevating into pure Geminian structure. Okay, so the way the nodes sort of work in a black and white dualistic reality is the south tends to be where we're coming from and the north tends to be where we're going to. So there is this awareness of trying to get away from the south and finding resolution in, or remedy, as Stephen Forrest says, in the north. I love Stephen's use of the word remedy. It's as though the north node becomes the medicine that we're seeking. The south node is the illness that we're feeling, or the sickness that we're feeling. So in the last 18 months as a culture, part of the sickness of Sagittarius has to do with belligerence. My truth is true, right? My truth is right. It has to do with false information. It has to do with idolatry, when we make a truth, or we make a system of thought, or a system of ideology, when we make that the one and only truth, right? When the one and only truth, and when we don't look beyond that structure, it can also express through kind of a rut and strut behavior of like just unconscious lustfulness, indulgence, bad behavior, being rude, being belligerent, being opinionated, boorishness, things like that. And arrogance is a big one. So, you know, part of the remedy that we've been learning has been around opening our minds to new ideas, within this unbelievably connected society that we're now in, where every bit of information that we could possibly want is at our fingertips. How do we filter the facts out? And how do we come into a clear place of understanding many perspectives without needing to hold on to our own as being the right one, right? So open-mindedness, a willingness to look beyond our dogma, to accept many perspectives, and to accept that sometimes facts operate beyond dogma. So sometimes there really are legitimate facts that are real, and generally those facts don't have emotions attached to them. So learning how to remove the dogma and the emotional from the facts, and learning how to separate out which is which, right? So that we can filter through the information and make choices based on reality. It's not been an easy 18 months, and we're crossing over into the next. And the last eclipse that we had in Taurus was the preliminary start of that next cycle. Now, the South Node will be in Scorpio, the North Node will be in Taurus. So I have to say that the debates that have been going on in the air, the fights that have been happening verbally, will now move down into the emotional body. We are now going to be dropped under the surface so that we can see what is beyond our dogma, what is beneath our vitriol, what is underneath our need to be right, what is underneath it. And what is underneath it is, generally speaking, fear, pain, shame, all those dark places that we don't want to go. We don't want to admit to them. We don't want to admit to the bad things we are. We don't want to look ourselves in the face. Sometimes it's easier to just pretend and just fight than to stop and feel why you have a need to fight in the first place. Because feelings are dangerous places for many of us. Many of us don't even know how to feel. I have this literally reflected back to me in my work by clients all the time. I don't know how to access my feelings. In fact, this sentence has been coming up a lot lately. It's been coming up a lot lately in my client work. I don't know how to access my feelings. Well, get ready, everyone. We are about to go into the realm of feelings. So, but for the moment, we are not in the realm of feelings. We are still in the eclipse gate, but we are entering the Sagittarius season. So the sun has just gone into Sag about 10 days ago. And this eclipse will be in Sagittarius at 12 degrees. And so before we dip and descend into the Scorpio land of deep, intense, inner landscape, we have a moment of repose and we have a moment of reflection. And that is what this eclipse is inviting for us. It's an eclipse happening at the South Node. And so it's an eclipse where we let go of the past and we make peace with it. Okay. And eclipses are very powerful gates into the reality, and they really often bring a lot of transformation if they are within 3 or 5 degrees of a personal planet, either conjunct, opposite, trine, or square. The trines are not that powerful, but a square, a conjunction, and an opposition you're going to want to notice if you have anything in mutable signs at 12 degrees of Sag, Gemini, Pisces, or Sag, Gemini, Pisces, or Virgo, sorry. And that this eclipse is going to bring something in for you, okay? That there's going to be something that you're making peace with, something that you're resolving, and something that you're seeing the truth of, okay? Now, for a moment, I just want to leave that goodbye. We're going to let that be. So you guys, you know what to do. You check your charts and you see whether you have mutable signs within 3 to 5 degrees of 12, okay? And then you know to pay attention when the eclipse comes through to what's changing for you, to what's transforming. I now want to change this conversation a little bit and just talk a little bit about pure form Sagittarius. I'm doing a free new moon meditation kind of quote class on Saturday at 4 o'clock. It's going to be very, very casual. I'll put the link in the chat of this video and in this newsletter. I'm not sure if I'll mention it in my YouTube video. If you want the link and you're watching this on YouTube, please just contact me via my website, okay? I don't really want to put it out to the entire world. I don't know if that's necessarily prudent, but in any case, so sorry. In any case, I would love to share it with you. And I'm just putting my non-interrupts on so that doesn't happen again. So as a precursor to that, I just want to very quickly introduce you to the archetype of Sagittarius, because it is such an incredible archetype and it's so powerful. It's so important in our lives right now, and it's so important for us to understand it. And it is one of my favorite archetypes. And I know that we've come through like 18 months of having to deal with the toxic Sagittarius, right? But maybe at this eclipse, maybe on the very last eclipse, the last kick at the can, we could all just honor the amazingness of this archetype and what it is really here to teach us. Sagittarius, for those of you who don't know, is represented by the Centaur, which is a half horse, half man. And the Centaur is a mythical creature which represents the nomadic wildness that lives in all of us. In all of us is that ability to be at one with the land, to be at one with nature, to be at one with our instinct, to be aware of our needs as they relate to the moment, as they relate to the primacy of our ability to tune in, to tune up into our instinctual and intuitive awareness, and to survive in natural flow, okay? Jeffrey Wolf Green calls Sagittarius an indigeneity archetype. And if you think about indigenous people on the earth, they tended, perhaps not in recent history, but prior to colonialism, indigeneity meant you were living on the land, right? It means you were living in harmony with nature. You were one with your being, with the body, and you had to be this way, otherwise you wouldn't be able to survive. There was a going with the flow kind of an energy with indigenous tribal consciousness, right? It was not ruled by civilization. It was not ruled by, you must show up at 9 o'clock. You must punch the clock. You must go home at 5. You must eat your lunch for 30 minutes. You get a break 15 minutes here. It was not like that at all. It was like, we know we need to eat. We know we need to sleep. We have very basic physical needs. But other than that, freedom, right? This is what we do. This is how we are in the environment. It's snowing today. We're not we're going to huddle in. We're going to stay inside our teepee. We're going to stay inside our igloo. Or there's a tiger about, we're going to all get together and we're going to get that thing out of the environment so it doesn't take our children, right? Like there's an instinctual uprising of instinct. There's an uprising of instinct and the ability to meet nature as it is and to be a part of it. Sagittarius as an archetype is very much tuned into this freedom, this primal freedom that we all have as human beings. This is our nature. And society is wonderful and rules are great, but if we could all just remember that that's not what we really are, that's what we have chosen to exist inside of because it suits us In many ways, it serves us. In many ways, it doesn't serve us, right? In many ways, we want to not necessarily, especially as we come to the end of Pluto in Capricorn, we want to realize that, you know, the rules and the structures and the hierarchies aren't always here to help us. And they're not infallible, okay? They can come crashing down. We can define them anew. And it's important for us to tune into the truth of what we are, so that we know how to create structures and forms that benefit us or that work for us. Yeah. So the Sagittarius archetype is also about a reclamation of our animal and the feminine. What happened through the patriarchy, through the the patriarchal period, through the Hellenistic period, we sort of began to demonize and villainize the animal nature, right? The instinctual nature, the feminine nature. Women were put in their place. They were objects to be controlled. The body was something to be controlled. And then you saw that really come out in Christianity, right? In the way that our sexuality was a sin, our body was a sin, our needs were sins. We were really, the feminine was denied, the feminine was bound. You know, it reminds me of the foot binding in China, in ancient China, and the way that we have just tried to assert complete dominance and control over anything that was wild, or anything that was free, or anything that was real and natural and instinctual and pure. And even as we came in as colonists into quote unquote uncivilized lands and took over, we looked at the people who were there living in nature, living freely, and we thought of them as savages. So the colonialists reduced them to nothing, right? And we all know this story. We all know the way this story has ended. We all know that here we stand, destroying our planet, destroying our earth, and that if we don't wake up and start to stand up for ourselves and our right to survive and be a part of this beautiful, vital, living organism that we are born of and born into, that we're going to die, right? Because we cannot suppress that anymore. We can't suppress the wild feminine. We cannot suppress the earth anymore. We're like little bits of fluff upon her. She will just fluff off, like she'll just get rid of us. You know, it's irrelevant to her. Although I know that she deeply loves us and that we deserve to be here. We're incredible. We can create lives that are incredible. We just have to return to a sense of truth, the real truth, not dogma, not idolatry, not our ideas, not these truths that we hold up as false idols, really. But the real truth, the instinctual primal truth that lives inside our bodies. And in order to do that, we have to connect with our bodies. We have to connect with our bodies. Now, that brings me to the last part of Sagittarius as an archetype that I'd like to tune into, or I'd like to invite you into. And that is the fact that Sagittarius is the archetype of the third eye. And I remember when I was 21 years old and I was in my initiation period, I was in my awakening period, and I had a teacher who came to me, and I studied really intensely with this man. He was a Qigong master, incredible dancer, amazing shaman. And he taught me how to run energy through my body. He taught me elemental magic. And one of the circuits of energy that we would work with was the third eye to the tailbone. Third eye to tailbone. And in order to open the third eye, you have to have a clear channel all the way up the spine, right from the tailbone, right into the pineal gland. You have to be absolutely in alignment, right? And one step further, your heart has to open. So the line has to come up and out. And the third eye is the place of truth, is higher truth. When we're able to see not through the dualistic eyes, black and white, good and bad, me and you, when we're able to elevate and open this eye, we see higher truth. We see from a different perspective. We look upon the duality from a place of clear knowing and clear being. And that is also the meaning of Sagittarius. But lest we forget the tailbone, okay? You cannot just open your third eye and run around being all magical if you're not rooted and grounded into your body. So as we grow down, we also grow up. And I think that's a really important thing to remember with Sagittarius, if you're working Sagittarius alchemy, is the being in the body, and also the elevating up to a higher place, and to looking down upon the reality, but from rootedness. Anyway, there is so much more I could say about this archetype. I love this archetype. So if you're interested in joining our class on Saturday, I'm just going to riff about it. I'm going to go off and teach you everything I know about it. Okay. There's so much there. It's so rich. I've barely scratched the surface. In any case, I just wanted to throw this out there. In lieu of this new moon, in lieu of this eclipse, good luck with it. I know this eclipse gate has been really intense for me, and because the eclipse 2 weeks ago happened basically conjunct my nodal axis. It was on me. It was an eclipse that activated me. So if any of you were activated by that a couple weeks ago, or if you are about to be activated by this one, good luck. Stay clear. You know, don't make too much of it. Go through it. Allow it to come through you. Allow what it is to present and to be okay with you. I'll leave you with one last tidbit about Sagittarius that I love to work with. Sagittarius is truth. Okay, it is truth, but it is either above the line or below the line, and we must always remember that we have the power to lift our sight upward above the line. We always have the power to be optimistic and to be hopeful in our lives. And if you fall below the line into misery, suffering, and victimhood, that is your choice. That is your choice, and there is a truth there. However, if you stay there or become addicted to that, you will suffer. So the challenge during the Sagittarius season is to say, what truth am I feeding? You know, which truth is my guiding light? And how do I work up above that line, so to speak, of fear, shame, blame, violence, anger, reaction, vitriol, whatever it is? How do I work up above the line and come into a higher place of truth that does not deny that the animal is there or that the darkness exists, but it has an optimism about it so that we can work with it, right? We can choose how we are with it. And I'll just, for those of you who have ever read the book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, it is the ultimate book about Sagittarius, where he suffered enormously through living in Holocaust situations. He was in Auschwitz and he survived. And the reason why he survived is because he had hope and meaning. He had something, a higher truth that kept him going. The higher truth for Victor was his wife. He wanted to see his wife again. The love between him and his wife was so incredible that he kept that vision of seeing her again. That was his guiding star. That was his guiding light. And when he came out of that experience and was liberated, he wrote this amazing book. He actually started an entire like system of psychology, all based on kind of making meaning in our lives, and the fact that human beings without meaning, they fall to death. And he witnessed it again and again and again through the Holocaust, where he would see people fall into despair and then perish, fall into doubt and perish, give up into defeat and perish. And for him, what he noticed in himself and in others was when there was that state of hopefulness, even in the face of the worst horror that you could possibly imagine. I mean, God, just to read this book alone is something that we should all do, just to see what happened and what his experience was. But within that experience, to think that this man kept his higher mind up, he kept his chin up, he kept his hope on. I mean, it's a bloody miracle that he could do that. And it is so clearly the triumph of this archetype. And I always come back to that as an example, because I believe it's my favorite archetype. I love it. Okay, so you guys, that's it. I'm going to leave you with that. I hope this is helpful, and take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye.